Hello. Welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Irene. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's calming tale and soothing sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Snuggleton, and the sleepy giant tale of Blossom Whispers. Snuggleton spread across a broad hollow where rolling slopes met rich earth and endless colour. Wild blooms covered every visible surface in waves of crimson, azure, and golden hues that shifted the sun's steady arc. Cottages nestled among the flowers, their roofs curved like protective leaves, and walls woven from living vines that held the structures in a warm embrace. The air carried the warmth of midday light, wrapping around you like a familiar cover. In the distance, the outline of the ancient hills rose, and legends told how the sleepy giant had once walked those slopes, his vast body shaping the land with each careful stride, leaving behind pockets where magic gathered in the soil to birth these endless flowers. His presence remained as a protective awareness, a mythical watcher whose influence ensured the blooms never faded and the land stayed in balance. You move along the wide main path, feet sinking into the soft moss that lined the stones, each step releasing a subtle fragrance of earth and sweetness. The path winds toward the open meadows, where the first secrets begin to reveal. Petal gliders drifted on currents, their delicate forms resembling oversized seeds with translucent extensions that allowed them to float from bloom to bloom, carrying pollen in a dance that sustained the entire valley. Their movements were rhythmic and predictable, creating a soothing pattern for the eyes to follow. Nearby, flora voles poked their rounded heads from burrows beneath larger blossoms, their fur patterned like flower petals and eyes bright with curiosity. One paused to watch your approach, then offered a small trill that sounded like distant chimes, inviting you deeper. The sun bathed everything in steady golden tones, encouraging a sense of renewal with each breath you drew. Here in the meadows, the flowers stood tall and open, their centers holding small pools of dew that reflected the sky. Touching the edge of one large bloom, its surface velvety under your fingers, you notice how the petals slowly turned towards you, as if responding to your presence. A story began to unfold in soft images within your mind. Visions of quiet mornings where worries dissolved like mist under rising light, of moments where the body found complete ease and the heart rested without effort. Peace settled across your shoulders and down through your arms. A natural flow that reminded every part of you that rest comes easily when the world offers such beauty. You linger among these first displays, allowing the warmth to penetrate, the sounds of soft wing flutters and leaf brushes to fill the space around. The sleepy giant seemed to approve from his distant vigil, his ancient care embedded into every root and stem. Moving onward, the path narrowed slightly, leading toward thicker clusters where the true hidden places waited. Each footfall felt lighter, the ground supporting you fully as the floral world opened layer by layer. The landscape around you held a quality of endless depth, each flowerhead holding layers of colour that changed with the angle of light. The stems sturdy yet flexible as they swayed in the breeze that moved through the valley. You felt the connection to the earth through the soles of your feet, the moss yielding just enough to provide cushioning without sinking too far. The creatures continued their activities, the petal gliders landing and taking off in sequences that seemed choreographed by the land's own design. The florivoles dug small tunnels that aerated the soil, allowing roots to spread and draw nourishment from the rich ground. Every element worked in concert, creating an atmosphere where all things found their place and contributed to the overall harmony. The scents changed as the wind shifted, bringing notes of sweet nectar one moment and earthy undertones the next, each one inviting a deeper breath and a fuller sense of presence in the moment. Your skin felt the warmth spreading evenly, relaxing the muscles along your back and neck, allowing the body to stand taller and move with greater ease. The sounds of the creatures and the plants created a background that encouraged the mind to slow its thoughts, focusing instead on the immediate surroundings and the sense of belonging that grew with every step. The way curved into denser growth, where the blooms grew larger and more intricate, creating natural archways overhead. You passed beneath them, the leaves brushing overhead in a rhythmic caress that matched the steady beat within your chest. Florivoles scampered alongside now, their small bodies weaving between stems, occasionally pausing to nudge a fallen petal back into place with their noses. Their presence added a layer of companionship, as if the land welcomed your exploration. Ahead lay the heart of the secrets, a glade encircled by towering flower stalks, whose petals hung like curtains, parting as you approached to reveal the inner sanctuary. In the centre stood the whisper blossoms, unique blossoms with multiple layers that opened in sequence when one drew near. The first layer revealed soft colours that soothed the gaze, drawing the eyes to rest on their patterns. As you settle onto a natural seat formed by intertwined roots and moss, one central whisper bloom turned its face fully toward you. Its outer petals parted with a quiet rustle, releasing a scent of sun-warmed honey and fresh rain on soil. Inside, images began to form, not as pictures, but as sensations and knowings. You experienced the feeling of complete safety, of a body sinking into support, where every muscle could loosen in its own time. The story told of renewal, how after the longest days the land always returned to fullness, just as rest always comes to those who seek it in the right places. A petal glider landed nearby. Its folding wings lay to rest on a nearby leaf, adding its quiet company. The tale continued through the next layer of petals, speaking in deeper comfort, the kind found in familiar places where the world slows and allows the mind to wander without direction. Positive waves of assurance moved through, affirming that you belong here in this moment of discovery. That renewal flows naturally when one allows the senses to lead. The sleepy giant had blessed these particular flowers during his time among the hills, his great hands carefully arranging the first seeds so that they would grow to offer such gifts to all who found their way. You remain in the glade for what feels like an unhurried span, the sun's light filtering through in steady patterns that encourage the breath to slow and deepen. Around you, aura-lynx creatures with coats dappled in flower tones moved with their usual calm, their calls like low melodies that blended with the breeze moving through leaves. One approached, its eyes holding ancient kindness, and nuzzled a loose petal toward your hand. When touched, more of the story unfolded. Memories not your own, but ones that felt personal, of times when peace replaced turmoil and the heart found its rhythm again. The experience brought a profound sense of being watched over, protected by the land and the giant's enduring legacy. The air in the glade carried layers of fragrance that shifted with every small movement, drawing attention to the velvet texture of nearby leaves and the cool firmness of the moss beneath. Each detail invited closer attention. The way a single droplet of dew clung to a stem edge before falling, the subtle way the Dreamlynx coats blended with the surrounding petals, so that creature and flower seemed part of one continuous whole. The unfolding continued in waves, each new layer adding another thread to the narrative of ease and belonging, reinforcing how the body naturally seeks balance when surrounded by such living support. As the petals closed once more, a new layer of calm had taken root within, spreading to every limb and thought. The tour continued from there to the renewal areas, but the glade's influence stayed, a foundation of comfort that would carry forward. Other explorers could be seen in the distance, approaching their own whisper blooms, each finding unique tales meant only for them, yet all sharing the thread of peace and the promise of deep, restoring rest. The surrounding foliage created pockets of shade and light, in patterns that invited the eyes to follow without strain. Each shift reminding the senses of the steady support offered by the valley. The creatures moved in leisurely circles, their paths making connections that felt intentional and reassuring, as though the entire space existed to comfort those who entered it. From the glade, the path descended toward a series of connected pools, where water lilies of exceptional size floated on surfaces as clear as polished glass. Here the air felt even more fine, the sun's rays creating patterns of light and warmth across the water. You follow the mossy bank, the flora-voles now joined by small groups of Dreamlynx, who drank from the edges and observed with quiet interest. The lilies responded to your nearness, their broad petals turning and opening to display inner chambers filled with soft glowing centers that held stories of complete release. Sitting at the water's edge, one lily drew close enough for its surface to brush your fingertips with a cool yet comforting touch. The contact brought forth a narrative of renewal under the steady sun, showing how the land recovered after every season, flowers returning fuller each time. The sensation moved up through your arms and across your chest, encouraging any remaining tightness to ease away into the surrounding beauty. Affirmations echoed in the experience. You deserve this peace. Your body knows how to find deep comfort. Renewal awaits in every quiet moment. The sleepy giant was said to have paused by these very waters during his journeys, his reflection adding power to their restorative qualities, making them a place where watchers over the land still offered their protection. Petal gliders circled above the pools, their flights creating subtle ripples that added to the melody of water movement against stems. The combination of sounds and sights invited the whole being to settle, much like the preparation for extended rest, where the world outside fades and inner calm takes hold. You watch as other lilies nearby perform their own unfoldings for visitors who had arrived. Each person or creature receiving personalized tales of comfort and strength. One story involved the simple joy of lying in fields much like these, body supported by the earth, mind free to drift among the clouds. The water reflected the sky in ways that blended blue and gold into new tones, the lilies bobbing with the lightest currents to create tiny waves that lapped at the banks in steady repetition. Each lap carried a cool mist upward, touching the skin and adding another layer of refreshment that travelled through the limbs and settled in the core. The Lynx paused in their drinking to glance toward you, their presence adding a layer of shared understanding that everything here moved toward balance and ease. Time passed without hurry in this space, the sun moving across its path while the pools maintained their steady invitation to release and restore. When ready, the return path opened naturally, leading back through the meadows where the earlier blooms now seemed even more vibrant. Their colours deepened by the experiences carried within. The return journey allowed every earlier discovery to settle further. The paths now familiar, yet still full of new details, had caught the attention in passing. A cluster of petals caught in a web of vines, a floravole family emerging to bask in the light. The way the entire meadow seemed to breathe in unison with the distant hills. Each element reinforced the sense of security spread through the land. The positive assurance that every part of the body could find its natural state of rest here, among the living growth. Back in the village heart of Snuggleton, the cottagers welcomed with open doors and the scent of evening meals beginning. The tour through the floral secrets had transformed the way the entire place appeared. every bloom now holding potential for more stories and peace. Others in the hamlet moved with similar ease, having visited their own hidden spots among the petals. The knowledge that such places existed and always would brought a lasting sense of security, a reminder that renewal was available and the land watched over its inhabitants with care. You find a spot to rest near the central square, the day's light beginning its slow descent. Yet the feelings of comfort remain strong. The sleepy giant's presence could almost be felt in the way the hills stood proud, ensuring the flowers continued their whispers for all who needed them. As night drew closer, the blossoms in Snuggleton closed their petals in preparation for morning. But their secrets stayed with you, ready to unfold again in dreams and quiet times. Peace had taken hold, deep and true, ready to carry into the hours of rest ahead under the stars. The village square held clusters of smaller blooms that released their own soft fragrances as the light changed, each one adding to the cumulative sense of completion from the day's tour. The petal gliders settled onto rooftops and ledges, their forms folding inward like the flowers themselves, signaling the neutral transition toward evening calm. The floravolls returned to their burrows beneath the larger stems, their movements always unhurried as they prepared the soil for another cycle of growth. Every detail in the scene reinforced the interconnected nature of the valley, where each creature and plant contributed to the overall atmosphere of support and belonging. You could feel the day's explorations settling into the muscle and thoughts, creating space for the body to release fully into the support of the bench beneath you. The ground beneath that, the land that held everything in place. The positive energy from the unfolded stories stayed like a quiet companion, affirming again and again that safety surrounded every moment and that renewal came naturally when one allowed the senses to guide the way. The hills in the distance caught the last of the sun's rays, their outlines reminding of the giant who once walked among them and left his care embedded in every root system and petal edge. That watchful presence extended across the entire scene, ensuring that the meadows and glades and pools would remain available for future explorations whenever the need for peace arose. The air cooled slightly with the changing light, yet the warmth from the day's experiences stayed close, wrapping the body in a sense of complete ease that travelled from the crown of the head through to the toes. The sounds of the village settling blended with the last rustles from the nearby blooms, creating a natural backdrop that encouraged the breath to find its own steady rhythm and the mind to drift among the memories of open petals and shed tales. In this way, the tour through Snuggleton revealed layer after layer of the hidden floral secrets, each one building upon the last to create a complete experience of peace and renewal that stayed with you long after the paths had been followed and the stories had unfolded. The creatures continued their quiet work around the edges of the square. Their presence, a constant assurance that the land remained alive and attentive, even as darkness approached. The entire valley seemed to exhale in unison, releasing the day's accumulated light and warmth into the evening air, inviting all within it to follow the same pattern of release and restoration. You sat with the knowledge that such places existed and welcomed every seeker. Their petals ready to open again and share their messages of comfort whenever the heart called for them. The sleepy giant watched from his ancient vantage, his legacy alive in every bloom every step taken through the meadows, ensuring that renewal remained an open invitation for all who walked the paths of Snuggleton.